fired from Sub-Basement D of a major motion picture studio. The development executives must go to the last places in Hollywood with money. Now streaming, Reboot It!
Finally, The Rock has come back to Paramount Plus. You see, the fact of the matter is this. The Rock's made a monumental deal with the Plus, and this fall, during the month of October, will be known as Rocktober. So The Rock says this, Paramount Plus, The Rock needs a new Rock original. And that's why you four jabronis are here in front of the Brahma Bull. So tell The Rock whose ugly faces he's looking at.
I am producer Bill, sir.
I'm Billy Business. Don't eat me.
I'm Ed Greer.
Ron Swallow.
All right, let the Rock get this straight. Just 1 minute. Let the Rock get this straight. We have cracked out Vincent Gallo. We have two cops, the fat one from Stranger Things and the fat one from Family Matters. And you, what was your name again?
Swallow.
It doesn't matter what your name is. You look like a reject from the Chuck E. Cheese band. Now listen up, because The Rock is about to deliver the most electrifying assignment your candy asses have ever had. The Rock has secured the rights to one of his favorite franchises of all time. Are you ready? Face Off. So The Rock says this: you jabronis sit around, circle jerk each other, and you figure out how to make Face Off the biggest event the Great One has ever been a part of. You need to deliver something that will electrify the millions and millions of Rock's fans. You have less than 90 minutes to deliver before The Rock comes back to layeth the smack it down on all your candy asses. If you smell, look at the tongue, look at the tongue, look at the tongue, no, what The Rock is cooking.
Awesome.
I don't
That
know
was
if I can handle that amount of energy. I mean, well, it was one thing with Peters. It's another thing with this guy.
What's amazing is, like, how does he do that with no carbs?
I have no idea. This guy has just boundless energy and now I guess boundless money if he's going to buy all these franchises up.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, full disclosure, I know a few things about The Rock. For instance, The Rock doesn't spend more than 5 hours a day on set. So if we're making this movie with him, a lot of body doubles, people. A lot of body doubles.
We got to up our CGI budget because I don't know of any double that can get as big as that guy.
I'm sure he's got some
Dude, he's got a cousin who is just his body double guy. All right.
That's amazing.
Let's get into it. Oh my God. We're turning Face Off into a vehicle for The Rock. What? The question becomes difficult, people, because are we asking what do people expect from a Face Off movie? Or are we asking what do people expect from a movie starring The Rock? Because I think they're two separate questions, and The Rock has a history of invading franchises and just turning them into Rock featurettes. So does the franchise even matter? Let's ask that question.
I actually think that this is easier than you think, Bill, because I feel like The Rock, if you look at his filmography, let's just be real with ourselves. Let's have a total honesty session. Most of those movies are pretty crappy. They suck. He picks things that have really goofy scripts and he's very serious and they're too goofy but not fun. They're goofy but not fun. So I think Face Off is the perfect movie for The Rock because it's inherently goofy and I think it's a fun idea. It's a fun script. So I could totally see The Rock doing a new Face Off. And honestly, the crossover between what he's done and what Face Off is, it's not that far off.
Okay, I'm halfway to being sold. Ed, what are we thinking? What do audiences want out of this project?
Listen to me now, Daddy. Listen to me now. They want a face off. All right, that's the first thing. They want a face off. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's got to be a face off before it's a face off. You know what I'm saying? It's got to be a face off before it's a face off. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you got to keep that in mind. As myself, yes, that is the case. Though you have to set up a dynamic where these are dynamic. In a face-off thing, to me, if you're going to abide by the lore, and you have it be a classic Rock versus a person movie, or a Rock even against other people movie, it will be a face-off before anybody gets their faces ripped off, if we even choose to keep that. That's what I got to say about it.
Ron, what do you think? What do people want?
Well, first off, I think the face-off concept is going to be interesting because, when John Travolta and Christian Slater change bodies but have different faces.
How dare you? Was
it Christian
John
Slater?
Travolta and Nicolas Cage? You absolute heathen.
Right. Yeah, you're right. I was thinking of the other BB
Ron,
actors.
your opinion officially doesn't matter in this episode, but I want to thank you for showing up.
How dare you disrespect Nicolas Cage like that?
I know, you're right. It was disrespectful. Christian Slater, Nicolas Cage, they are not alike. But their faces, the face changing situation, they're at least probably around the same height. Changing their bodies, like when you've changed the face over, it's like, oh, okay, well, it's two white guys changing faces. Okay, I guess that's a possibility. Because, obviously, we're already letting go of how stupid that idea is. Their bodies would be different. They're married to people who I would assume would look at those bodies and be like, your bodies are different. This is weird. You know what I mean?
You bring up an interesting point, Ron, because there's some real racial implications if we put a white man's face on a black body or vice versa. Like, you almost have to find someone that it matches.
Or do we do an Eddie Murphy and The Rock plays two different characters?
Too much Rock. You've got too much Rock in one project. That's the thing. You can't do it.
You need a well-balanced diet of Rock.
I don't know. It's just one of those that if we're going to do the exact same concept, it becomes a problem, right? Because how do you do the concept of taking a face off if you change the idea of facing off and you make it a different movie? Well, now it's not face off, right? So how?
May I propose that this is something I said before we went on the air, and I just want to say, I don't want to Christopher Nolanize this movie and try to figure out exactly how this would work, because the beauty of that first movie is that they just can. It just happens. They do it, and that you don't dwell on how it just happens. So it's I understand what you're saying. I think the audience knows what Face Off is in terms of the tone and what it can get away with. So it's just all right, why not just do a full Freaky Friday? You get in this machine and you completely body swap or something of that nature. But it's just I don't want to have to sit here for 40 minutes of our show to try to figure out the mechanics of how this would actually work in the real world. Because it wouldn't. It can't. Yeah. It doesn't.
Okay, so then with that out of the way, I say it has to be as over the top as friggin' possible. Fast and the Furious over Hobbs and Shaw over the top. As high as you can take it over the top, we have to do that. That's what we got to do.
Can I make one point? And that is, and this is a real point, right? At this moment in which we live, those movies you just referenced, Ron, Hobbs and Shaw, Fast and Furious, those types of movies, we all know they're essentially Rock movies, right? That style of filmmaking started with Face Off. And all I would say is when Face Off came out, it was ludicrous how over the top that movie was with style and bombastic action. Now, we've taken everything that Face Off sort of innovated as a blockbuster and just turned it into the formula. And so I would say people might come into this expecting an over-the-top action romp. I don't know if we could. This goes back to Billy's old point about when Kiss did their reunion tour, right? I don't know if we could possibly recapture the magic of Face Off just from a stylistic filmmaking standpoint, because we now live in a culture where that has happened and has been adopted across cinema. So,
Well,
I don't
had
know.
another idea that's kind of crazy though. And I don't want to. I don't know if we're throwing out ideas yet, but horror was what popped into my head.
Ooh,
Because think
hang
about
on to
how
that.
scary it is
yeah.
for us knowing that some other person is in that body interacting with the family, interacting with, you know what I'm saying? Like that's actually scary. So I don't know. And has The Rock done a horror before? I don't know if he has. I'm not
He did.
an expert.
I don't know if you count it, but he did Doom, and that was a massive failure.
Man.
You could say that was more action than horror, but it had horror elements.
I would also say that it was pre-Superstar Rock. That was before anybody like that was when people were going, really? Can this guy star in a movie? So that was almost a totally different era.
He definitely was 3 cap sizes, hat sizes smaller at that point.
Yeah. Well, look, Ron, I think the idea of doing a horror movie with The Rock is a really interesting idea. I think let's just give a quick rundown. And for this one, it's going to be quick because this is sort of a unicorn here on Reboot It. This is a blockbuster franchise that existed in about that 7-year span in the 90s where it didn't have to be based on anything, it didn't have to be derivative of anything, and it didn't have to go on to spawn sequels. This was just the biggest movie in the world at the time it came out on its own merits and then faded away. And I don't say that begrudgingly. I mean, it faded away because it was never designed to be a franchise. This was just a single one-off kick-ass movie. It was John Woo's ascendancy in Hollywood. This is widely regarded as the best American movie that John Woo ever made. And it is very simply about an FBI special agent whose son is killed by a sociopathic terrorist. And so the face-off begins. These two men going after each other. And then an accident happens and the terrorist is incapacitated while a bomb is about to level Los Angeles, an atomic bomb. And so the special agent takes his face and puts it onto his own body and to go and impersonate this terrorist and find out about the bomb. And wouldn't you know it, when he is in prison infiltrating the criminal gang, the real terrorist wakes up and forces those doctors to put the FBI agent's face on his body, and then he kills the doctors. And so now these guys who have a blood feud anyway are wearing each other's faces and inhabiting each other's lives as the FBI agent who's now trapped in a supermax prison has to figure out how he's going to get his face and by extension his family and life back from the terrorist. It is every bit as ridiculous as it sounds. If you've never seen it, you're doing yourself a disservice to not watch it. And here we are talking about, this is something that Hollywood has been talking about, guys, for years now, a sequel, some new version. And now The Rock has the rights. What are we doing? Ron said horror. Any other big thoughts?
It's tough to top what you just said. You have to remember, and I think they said this in the How Did This Get Made episode of Face Off, where it's like the movie starts with a child being murdered. Like that, the movie starts with that. Like it only gets like bigger and crazier from there. Yeah, I don't know, man. Part of me is like, do you just, there was a little bit of like, I feel like when you watch Face Off now, like I feel like they maybe you don't read it the same way I do, but it's just like I feel like John Woo maybe didn't think it was quite as like over the top and comical. I kind of feel like John Woo took it a pinch more seriously than all the rest of us did, and maybe afterwards was like, yeah, it's supposed to be crazy. But I'm just wondering, it's like, is there something to leaning into it, to making it just even more like, now that we're in on the joke, like does that maybe alleviate some of the, because Fast and Furious is the same way, where those things are over the top and yeah, they kind of know it, but they take it very, very seriously still. Like, is there something to just not taking this very seriously?
Could this be a horror comedy? Could we combine both of the things?
Right, I was thinking like an action comedy, a horror comedy, but like leaning into like, this is silly, so let's have fun with it.
I would
I mean-
also say, though, one of the things that maybe is not talked about enough, even though it's talked about in that original movie, is the Travolta and Cage of it all. Like, this was number one at a time when both of those guys were like at their peak. This is the midst of the Travolta-sance coming off of Pulp Fiction. This is where Nicolas Cage was a bona fide summer blockbuster action hero with rippling muscles, if you can believe that time existed. And this was also like the birthplace of both of those guys being absolute weirdos on screen. Like, this was the first time that you got to see John Travolta play like a sleazy, scummy type of character, and it fit a little too well. And this was honestly, I would argue, the birth of the Nicolas Cage meme of like, I'm gonna scream kind of Nicolas Cage. We would be doing ourselves a disservice if we did not consider this a character-led blockbuster.
Can I
jump in?
Who we should have with The Rock is what you're saying.
Yes,
so.
I think that is absolutely correct. And that is what I came to say. Because honestly, Billy's right in that we don't need to go too far into the gimmick. It could be a hologram thing. It could be MI6 masks that are even better. It could be a billion things. It could be people getting a MI6 mask bonded to their face accidentally. Whatever. The bottom line is it's got to be two performers with two separate styles of performing, basically acting like each other. The parlor trick of that. This is what it is.
You have to find actors that are incredibly idiosyncratic so that you're like, oh, The Rock does that, or like Kevin Hart does that, but seeing The Rock do Kevin Hart, that's where the novelty of Face Off is. They could almost be doing anything that you want. Like, the fact that it's an action movie is kind of ancillary to the whole deal.
Yeah. I mean, you said Kevin Hart, and if we go with Kevin Hart, that is obviously going to be a comedy. What other stars could we, there's the Cena of it all, right? If we went all
I know what I
wrestlers.
want, but I know Rock wouldn't do it, but I guarantee you it would sell 1 billion tickets. You do Vin Diesel. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
See, though, but wouldn't that feel a little anticlimactic in that, like, haven't we already had the clash of two titans, as Vin Diesel put it?
But
we
didn't know how much they hated each other until later.
That's a fair point.
It's kind of like, look, to make another wrestling thing, it's a wrestling episode in a sense. It's like, John Cena and The Undertaker fought 15 years ago when John Cena was a nobody and no one cared. And then 10 years later, 15 years later, you can make that a WrestleMania main event as something like you've never seen before. It's like, I did, but it didn't mean anything back then,
Okay, so here's one more pitch down the road of how do we take this over the top and make it a comedy. What if this is not a one-on-one face-off? What if we get The Rock, John Cena, Dave Bautista, and maybe one or two other beefcake stars, and it is a multi-person face swap going on here? Is there mileage to that? I don't know. Is that just a dumb?
The only thing I would say is like, and this goes just for everything in general, so I'm not shooting down your idea because that could be fun. We just have to make sure, because The Rock has kind of done this already with Jumanji, which is essentially where he was acting like someone else in the cast. I think Jack Black was the one that really got the fun meaty role. I think the second one, Rock got to be like Danny DeVito or something. So I would just say, like, as long as we avoid Jumanji comparisons, like, oh, it's just The Rock and like acting with his, acting like one of his friends again.
Well, how about Channing Tatum in there?
Is Channing
I'm
Tatum
actually
over?
serious.
I haven't seen Channing Tatum in anything in a long time. I don't know where he is.
Yeah,
I don't know either.
It's really funny. This also makes me think The Rock, I forget the movie, but The Rock also did that movie where it starts with him in high school and they face swapped him onto some really
Central Intelligence with Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. See, this is interesting, guys, because like The Rock has already done these super macho action comedy team up movies like out the ass. He's done so many of these.
How about
what's
Chris
a new
Pratt?
take? Say again, Ron?
Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt acting like The Rock is hilarious to me.
You've got my attention. You definitely have my attention with that.
And The Rock acting like Chris Pratt / Star-Lord is hilarious to me.
I mean, there's a novelty too of like if Rock switches place. It's essentially like I would think of it less as like Face Off than just like think of any body swap comedy or body swap horror. Like who's the funniest? Pair it up. Like if I got the Rock's body tomorrow, the shit I would probably do to it, I would wreck that. I probably wouldn't even know how to drive the Rock's body. It's like being in a Lambo. I'm like, I don't know what to do with this thing. So it's just like anyone that swaps with the Rock, it's going to be, I think it would be, unless they're his size, like a Batista, like it's going to be hilarious because you wouldn't know what to do with it.
But see, that's where if we're going to steer into this comedy skid, which it might actually be, I think you just go different body. Like you do the fact that it's just a body swap. Just do it. It's just a body swap. And him and Ron Funches, him and anybody that isn't super in shape, so I'm the Rock. I'm the most physically capable dude ever. I have to stop a terrorist in my body, and I'm in Ron Funches' body. You got my attention on that. You know what I'm saying?
I have a pitch for a story, or just an idea.
Please.
What if, everyone's talking about how much they hate Wyatt Russell in Falcon Winter Soldier. Instead of like two guys going at it, what if it's like a dead hero or a hero that needs a vacation or something, and they literally need to face swap someone? Like imagine if John Walker was Captain America and they're like, this isn't working out. Come here for a second. They keep him in hiding for a month and graft Steve Rogers' like face onto him. They're like, yeah, see, Steve's back. Like, what could go wrong with?
There's something interesting to that.
Yeah.
There's still some comedy where The Rock is in a different body and he's trying to vacation, but crazy shit keeps happening. And so now he's got to come back to the hero game.
Can I just create some stakes? I just want to create some stakes for us creatively with the body swap. There was a movie that came out to great acclaim in the past year or two called Freaky. And it was essentially Freaky Friday as a horror movie. And what happened in that movie is a popular teenage girl and Vince Vaughn playing a serial killer swapped bodies due to some ephemeral magic. And it was a black comedy horror movie where the serial killer now has all the access he could ever want to murder underage girls. And then this girl has to try to save her friends while she's in the body of this old, horrifying serial killer. And so I only bring that up to say, if we're talking inventive body swapping, we got to top something like that. So I just... if we're going to go down this road of like, oh, the comedy is like being in a body that you don't quite get, you don't understand, because that was not what the original Face Off was. The original Face Off was like, they're both capable, physical, rugged men. And like the action, it was more of an excuse that they could both engage in ludicrous action while trying to repatriate their faces. So I don't know if we want to go down this road of like, oh, I don't know what to do with this body, just because like that's been done a lot of ways. Jumanji's another great example, right? Like that whole franchise, 2 movies going on a third now, is based on the idea of putting The Rock in a scenario where it's like, I don't know what to do with this body. So I don't know. Is that the right vehicle? I'm not saying one way or another. I just want us to think about this.
It's a great question.
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw cold water on the whole discussion. I just
no, because we weren't coming up with any stakes. So you're right. So how about somebody who wants to be physically capable and badass, forces a swapping of bodies, and then there's more for each of them. The guy kind of wants to keep it because he's able to do cool stuff. I mean, again, we don't really have a specific story, but I just want because I don't know if I want to do that traditional, these two guys go at each other thing. I love the idea of 2 different bodies being weird because I think that adds the comedy in there. And if you make the stakes too intense, then the comedy is not good. I mean, I remember.
What if we just like put a pin in the comedy because I don't want the comedy to also be something that's like hamstringing us. Like I'm now trying to think, okay, like why would somebody want to or need to swap their face? It's like, well, what if they're a terrorist or on the FBI's most wanted list and they just kept swapping their faces so you could never catch them? Or what if you're trying to impersonate someone who you killed because turns out they're a drug dealer's son and you're just trying to, I don't know, whatever. Like, I'm just thinking, like, why would you want to do this in the first place?
Okay, wait. Hold on. What about a guy who gets another guy's face because he thinks that guy is dead? And then that guy who was dead wakes up and now there's another dude selling his reputation all over town with his damn face on.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And then he's got to.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, the idea of like, the idea of, oh man, like essentially trying to ruin someone by becoming them, or even like Weekend at Bernie's-ing it, right? Where it's like, oh my God, I killed the wrong person. Oh my God, we need this guy alive. Now I have to become this guy. You know, because I accidentally killed him. Like there's something interesting to that.
It's a little close to the original in the sense of like you would need something, so you have to impersonate them. But again, like I don't think this is a concept that necessarily needs to 100% reinvent the wheel. I think it can optimize the wheel, but I don't think like it can't have DNA shared.
Let me flip the script on how we normally do this show. I sort of think we should start with casting. I think we should maybe put the story aside for a second and just think about like, who do we want to see The Rock face off with? Whether it's comedic, whether it's horror, whatever, we could put a tinge on it, but just straight up like, who do we want to be The Rock's arch nemesis? My mind immediately goes to like, I bet The Rock and Yahya Abdul-Mateen would be freaking electric in a movie together. Like,
I mean, the only thing is like the reason why I will disagree is he's not a household name, and I feel like Face Off almost has to be like Mayweather, you know, and Oscar De La Hoya. Like it has to be like a boxing match almost, and you almost have to promote it like that. So it's just like whoever that second name is, like he has to be equal or greater to The Rock.
I mean, is it okay to just go with the Jason Statham of it all?
I mean, they kind of did that movie.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a wild idea. What if it's Schwarzenegger? And what if there's sort of an age gap thing here? Like it's the 80, it's the original model Schwarzenegger and the new model Schwarzenegger, essentially in the movie, right?
Well, there's $100 million for our casting right there.
Yeah, but I mean, that was kind of the case in the original Face Off too. Like both of those guys were at their peaks. Who's a guy that like just within the past 5 years? I mean, Chris Pratt is the most interesting one.
Or like Hemsworth, you know.
Ooh, Hemsworth is okay. Now we're getting
Hemsworth is interesting because, frankly, I mean the what 2 times he's had appropriate material, he's done great, and the times that he's had inferior material, he's been okay. That's it.
He carries terrible movies like that Vacation reboot, which was unwatchable, but his part is amazing.
Oh, you know what? You are right. And you know what? He acted so well. I didn't even think of that as his role. I just thought of that as like a good part in a movie I saw. But he disappeared into a movie with his performance. He didn't have to throw it up. That's a great observation, Billy.
I mean, Hemsworth is, I feel like, at least on a different plane, but at least on the same level as The Rock. He's A-list, he's jacked, he's huge.
Yeah.
I would want to see who would win that fight, you know?
I also like the fact that Hemsworth, by the time we make this movie, will be known as Hulk Hogan because that biopic will have come out.
Oh, okay. I think we've sold ourselves on that. So building from that, what's the scenario? What's a likely scenario, unlikely scenario? Let's just figure that part out. Because I think, anything that, and the whole point of it is, though, just to give us some direction, the point of what we're about to say is to give maximum them time, whether it's them versus each other or them impersonating each other. That's what it's about. When we determine what the story is.
It's 2021. So what would you want to switch for? Like what crime, what thing?
Here's an idea. What if they're both bad guys, leaving us open to maybe cast a female lead as the only good guy in the movie? And what if the whole idea is that they're the two most powerful organized crime lords in the world, right? And so Chris Hemsworth is leading some gang of Australians and Bushmen and New Zealanders, and essentially like the whole South Pacific is his territory. And then The Rock is like he's set up somewhere else in the world. Like he owns all of Europe, and they essentially want to take over each other's territories. And so one of them gets the idea of like, I'm going to become the other guy. And then obviously something goes wrong and the other guy. So now it's like they're both going into each other's organizations with the idea of like, I'm going to take this over. And then we sort of have a third lead who is trying to figure this out. Or as I'm talking about this, maybe the face swapping is something that they could sort of turn on and off, and you make your lead character, whoever the investigator is, never quite sure if she's talking to the real one or the fake one. And there's mileage to that. I'm spitballing here, but I don't know.
Oh, I mean, just to yes, Andrew, in regards to the part I liked was the jazz about the turning it on and off so that you don't know who you're talking to, and we can build some real intrigue about like little tells that each other are doing to like that would give the investigator or anybody they come in contact with little clues that that's not, oh my God, that's not my dad. Oh my God, that's not my crime lord. You know what I mean? Like little acting tasks.
Can I hop on? You know what? Instead of crime lords, you know what I was thinking? What might just be a little simpler is, what if they had the ability to turn on and off? What if they were like a heist duo and they always got away with stuff because they could always change their faces? Something goes wrong, they split apart, and now they turn their faces, which they could normally turn to anyone else. They turn it to the other person to try to pin it on that guy.
Oh, that's dope, dude. It's like they're essentially each trying to get the other person caught,
so they can keep everything. Yeah,
which could be really interesting because then you have scenarios where they're deliberately trying to be in the same place with the same face to set the other person up. You know what I mean? Where it's like, all right, this guy's hiding out over here, this guy's hiding out over here. But if I want to pin it on this guy, I got to put his face on and then go get the real him caught. Right. And so it's like they're constantly trying to lead, law enforcement or whatever to the other guy. That could be really interesting.
Yeah. And setting up scenarios where they're trying to frame them. So they have to wait for them to be by themselves, but they're like, neither one of them are ever by themselves. So you're just waiting for them, like literally to take a nap or to fall asleep. So he's got to like stalk them and shit.
But then you have like those great scenes, like the end of a second act or something where the good, the cop, the woman, the detective, she gets it and it's two rocks. So Ron, you get your Eddie Murphy and it's like, yeah, it's him. It's like, no, it's, you get that classic thing, but it's just like, which rock is it? Are you going to arrest us both? But honestly, I think she figures out, it's like, this is probably how these guys have stolen. Like, we thought all these different robberies were just a bunch of different people. It's probably been these two guys for the last 10 years that have jacked anything worth of, more than a couple mil.
They have this crazy technology. They're the only ones who have this technology for whatever reason.
There's so many innocent bodybuilders in jail right now because they just keep pinning it on the local meatheads. I mean, it's kind of amazing.
I definitely see it. Yeah, when we open on like the type of scheme that they would do using the faces, and we just see it. We got to see that run like a Swiss watch at least.
Oh,
once.
you guys. The best part is then you get your different famous people showing up for this, right? You can have Cena do a scene where he's going to jail. You can have any big dudes that we can think of to get on there. We could even, have Chris Pratt do a scene where he's going to jail and he's like, I was just lifting weights. Then you have like an option to have a bunch of cool guest spots in the movies.
I agree with that. I mean, to Ed's point, if you open the movie with them executing the perfect heist, it could 100% be Dave Bautista and John Cena, assuming that they do us a favor, be the guys who get arrested. And then it's like, the fake John Cena and Dave Bautista meet up, and it's like they double tap the thing behind their ear or whatever, and suddenly their faces morph back. I think that could be really fun.
All right. So this is the craziest because we're like 35 minutes in. So, okay. So
I guess, look, I don't want to get too into it, but it's just like, is it like the chameleon from Spider-Man? Maybe they have like some sort of like technology pieces on their neck that like casts like a hologram or something over them, or.
Well, that's what I was kind of trying to say.
Whole body and hands. Right.
Well, like I said, I was trying to say that a little bit of that earlier, just like something that, has that little extra boost to where like we can have fun scenes of somebody breaking it. Like the hologram works only so much. And if somebody, the light, you know what I mean? Like something about this has to fail at some point to comedic or dangerous effect.
I mean, that's what was so cool about The Invisible Man last year. Was those scenes were just like, I think it was in the jail or something where it broke for just like half a second and you could kind of see how the mechanics of it worked. And again, I think The Invisible Man is actually probably the best, at least in my mind. Like that suit's probably not realistic, but it's just shown enough that I'm like, oh, I get how that could be a thing. And I think that's what we have to do. We can't gloss over it 100%, but we also shouldn't like write a textbook on how it works.
That is well said.
I totally agree with that. Yeah, I mean, I think as long as we're talking about it, it's either going to be like a film of nanites, right? It's like Tony Stark's suit, where it can swarm up over their faces and essentially retopologize their face, or it's going to be some sort of weird second skin mask that can, they pull on or pull off that then can retopologize the face and take on whatever skin tone or whatever. There's also a weird, I mean, you can maybe get into the body horror of it all, make it a little werewolfy if it's like they have, rewritable RNA, or like it's essentially a physical process where their body is being rewritten. So we're just
gonna get those COVID vaxxers even more worked up, anti-vaxxers. See, I knew the RNA could mess up my body. Keep your Johnson and Johnson in your Moderna.
I don't want to rant with these morons, but they are morons. I'll just leave it at that.
No, I love it. Let's have fun at the anti-vaxxers' expense. It's like, mRNA can change you into the Rock. It's crazy. You have no control.
Or what if it's like every time they do it? See, this is the thing. Part of me is like, if it's difficult to do, where every time they do it, they've got to like program nanites into a needle and then inject themselves in the neck, and then it's painful as the nanites like invade their face.
That's kind of cool. I like the idea of there being a consequence. Like it's not just like flip of like it does, like Wolverine when his claws come out, like it hurts,
But then another part of me is also just like, well, if it's just a mask, if it's just a mesh, then it's a lot frothier and funner. So it's sort of like, what's the style of movie we're going to make? Is it something where it being painful and gnarly fits the tone, or is it something where we want sort of the fun caper romp of like, double tap, I'm a new person. Oh, it's going to glitch out for a second. You're going to see me, but nope, now I'm back. Like which one?
The problem is that I like both, but I think that we are probably going for the funny part, because it sounds like when we're getting John Cena and whoever names that I keep forgetting because that's where my brain is at right now, together to do these scenes the body horror part doesn't really make sense with that. So I think funny.
Except I'm sort of seeing this movie as having the same tone as Michael Bay's Pain and Gain, which is very much a comedy.
Okay, but it's
also
dark.
horrible.
Yeah, it is a dark comedy.
Well, and also we need to clarify like each. I get the whole spy versus spy. I'm trying to frame you. I kind of understand that template, but to me, I would like it to be simplified so that people could have very clear rooting interests, even if they're complicated, like the Killmonger versus T'Challa thing or whatever, or in Heat. It's conflicting who you should root for. You know what I mean? So I like the fact that they're kind of equally bad, but if there's somebody who's I don't know about slightly more bad, but somebody who screws somebody else first. You know what I mean? To start the screwing. You know what I mean?
In this case, I think we make The Rock the good guy, right? I mean, so
The Rock is better as a bad guy. He won't agree. I don't think The Rock would be in here being like, make me the villain. The Rock is always better as a bad guy. I don't think he's.
I can only think of him as a bad guy and Get Smart. What was the other? What else has he been a villain in?
I would say Pain and Gain, I think, is a great example of him. He's like a total sociopath in that movie. He's played as the hero, but he's a total sociopath in that movie. There was another one that just flew out of my head. When he first came on the scene in Fast and Furious, he was one of the villains of that movie, and I think he was excellent. Where he was just like, "Stay the fuck out of my way," and he meant it. I think that's a much better version of The Rock than the wisecracking Jumanji version of The Rock, personally.
Okay. Well,
Go ahead. Go. Jesus Christ.
Know your role and shut your mouth, Ron.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to suggest that, like, it would just have him betray. We have him betray him first, so then the other guy is kind of forced to betray back because he doesn't really have a choice. So then that's when
somebody is definitely sleeping with somebody else's wife.
Ooh,
they're going to conspire to screw the other guy and take all the money for themselves. And so now the guy who's been double crossed, he's both been double crossed for his money and his lady. And so there you go. Now you have a very simple, like, worse guy versus bad guy, but more rootable. And then the more rootable bad guy is the guy who ends up getting with the Karen Cisco who's chasing the two of them, right?
Oh, well, I was actually thinking the wife tricks both of them, takes all of the money, and disappears.
I mean, it could end that way, but the mileage you get out of that, right, is she's with a guy and she doesn't know which guy she's with, or she's with a guy, much like the original Face Off, and she thinks it's the one guy, but it's actually the other guy. And so there's just like that tension that comes with those scenes.
Yeah, but also it's less creepy because she's sleeping with both of them already anyways.
I mean, also there's some like weird psychological issue if she's also in on the plot to steal his face, and then maybe it's like every time they sleep together, she wants him to wear the other guy's face, and so now he's getting, you know what I mean? Like, interesting things to be done there.
I wanted to, jeez Louise, it's like The Last Seduction all of a sudden. I feel like it could be just as interesting if we find out a real reason why one would want the other one's face, and then conversely want to leave the other one with the other face, like as like a combo. Like, I took your stuff, I took your life, I took your wife, and we're gonna go off and be you in this super fresh way, while you have to be a guy who is a terrorist or a crappy person who's like.
Hold on. You're now walking back the entire setup of they're trying to frame each other.
I just don't know how. I think you do that once or twice at the beginning, and then you deal with the consequences and build gags on that, rather than, I'll go over here next to a bank and show myself on the face and then push my button. And I don't know. I just to me, like I said, I guess it's almost my job to walk stuff back. And I just feel like I don't know that we gave proper shrift to the story of like it's Face Off. I'm not trying to be, it's Face Off. The whole that's complicated to me. Multiple times trying to frame each other for stuff is complicated to me. To Billy's point, my eyes glaze over at that. So
interesting. That seems very simple to me. It seems like the most simple concept.
That there are multiple times trying to frame each other throughout a movie.
But it's not episodic. I mean, that's the thing, right? Is like you're saying it as if it's like, all right, it's going to happen once, and then there's going to be a resolution, and then it's going to happen again in isolation, and there's going to be a resolution. I mean, you're thinking about that too episodically. I think it's more like the entire first act is them getting the money, and then the first betrayal happens 30 minutes into the movie.
What was the movie with Ben Affleck and Samuel L. Jackson where they get into a car accident at the beginning of the movie and
changing lanes?
Changing lanes. I see it more as like a darkly comedic changing lanes. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that movie, but essentially it just starts with Ben Affleck as a lawyer. He's going to he's trying to get to court. He accidentally bumps into Samuel L. Jackson. Samuel L. Jackson's trying to get his insurance. He's like, dude, just leave me alone. Goes away. He leaves his case file and Samuel L. Jackson picks it up. Ben Affleck gets to the court. He's like, I need that case file. And basically the whole movie is cat and mouse. Him's like, well, I'm not giving you this back. He's like, all right, well, then I'm going to go turn off your credit so you can't get a house. He's like, all right, well, then I'm going to go call all your clients. Like, it just escalates so far, and that's the movie. And that's kind of what I see for this one is like, it's maybe it starts with like, hey, like we're like someone's on to us. Like they saw you with, you're do a Goodfellas, you're spending all this money. You're super suspicious. They're on to you. They're not on to me. So that's maybe where it starts with the like, I'm getting out of this and you're on the hook for it. And then it just escalates. So finally you have to end it with a face off, essentially.
Well, and I think, I mean, I guess, Ed, if I'm hearing what you're saying, I do think that eventually this movie gets to the mirror moment from the original Face Off, right? Where it's like they're both freaking out because they're like, am I me or am I the other guy? And we're like, do I want to kill me as I'm pointing this gun at the mirror? And like having that moment is almost a prerequisite.
Right. I wonder if at some point, just like, could there come some point maybe in towards the middle of the movie or towards the end of the movie where it breaks and they can't go back, like they are stuck now in the other person's skin. So we do the face-off reversal, and then you get that real moment. Because right now it's like you can't get that. Do I kill me? Because it's like, well, he could push a button and he's not you anymore. Like, could there be something where they can't go back?
Yeah.
If it's injected nanites that just don't, if they malfunction, and now it's like we're the only guys in the world who had this miracle technology. And if for some reason it stops functioning, maybe they're both in range of an EMP blast that one of them sets off or something. And so now it's like, oh my God, we're stuck with these faces.
I just think that's how you get that mirror moment, because otherwise that mirror moment means nothing because you can just change back.
Yeah, I think that was well articulated what I was getting like lost in. It's just like it doesn't seem to mean anything, but like having it like, yeah, we can play these games, and then the fun and games get over and it gets serious and then it's over.
Right.
So yeah, I get that.
So I think about halfway through the movie, I like that idea of like an EMP blast knocks something loose in them and they're like, crap, we are stuck as each other now. Like, this isn't working anymore. Like, I am you now. That's how you get that classic face off,
I also like the idea that, if we're doing this more sort of, I mean, the first one was body horror too. Definitely people's faces being off. But, if the whole thing is like, well, I could reset the nanites in my face with like a 10,000 volt shock to my forehead, and I'm not going to do that. And you know what I mean? So it's like, you give them things to contemplate, like, am I going to do this crazy thing because I can't live with this new face anymore? And then, I mean, there is something interesting to the idea that if the wife the double crossing wife is a character, but then she triple crosses. So it's like she does the thing that Ron's talking about where I'm going to screw you both and leave with the money. I mean, there's something really interesting if we go into the third act and now it's like neither one of them has the millions of dollars and they're stuck with each other's faces and the feds or whomever are coming for both of them. And so now it's a desperate thing of like, I don't want to just screw you over and frame you so I can get away with the money. It's like, otherwise we're both going to jail for life. I'm just trying to find ways to like, how do you up the stakes to turn it more into that sort of crazy manic face-off that Ed is talking about?
I think that's a solid way to do it. Especially I just love the idea of these two guys thinking they're these slick characters getting away with stuff, and then it escalates to this point where they're both, crazy, wanting to fight each other, kill each other, take the other stuff, and then in the whole time the girl has been playing them and takes all of the stuff and goes to a beach. I don't know. I just love that idea. I don't know why, but I just love the idea that like she's the most powerful character in the movie and you don't even see it until the very end if you set it up right.
Well, and also I think the one thing I like about that is that it turns the trope on its head. Like back in the days, they were talking about how like Joan Allen didn't feel the difference in wiener size or whatever, there was all these like, God, because even the surgery that they had in the movie shaved off John Travolta's love handles to make him more svelte like Nick Cage. People do a CinemaSins on that movie and act like they didn't justify the body change. They literally had a scene identifying Homeboy's love handles and his fupa area and how they were going to do surgery on that as well as his face to accomplish, you know what I'm saying? So they tried in the way a B movie tries is all I'm saying. And I think we do a certain thing with this in that respect.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I loved about that original movie was the whole thing about his scar, where it's like he had a scar from where he was shot by Nicolas Cage. The bullet passed through him and murdered his son, right? And so he had to get the scar removed, and he was very adamant that once I get my face back, you're going to put that scar back because it means so much to me. And by the end, he had healed enough that he didn't want the scar back. It was fine to leave it off, which again, in just a crazy B-movie way, is its own kind of affecting. So I wonder if where's that heart? We are missing that amount of heart.
Well, and that's kind of what I was trying to get at earlier, as far as like you build heart by like looking at this guy and looking at that guy and feeling the feelings. When he was in prison, when they put his ass in prison and he was like basically crying in prison, that was affecting. I don't care that it was magnetron boots and all this ridiculousness. when you have a man sit and hold his own hands and cry a little bit over a situation, you got me, baby, especially when he gets to shoot people in the face later.
So maybe it's a situation where it's just like, maybe they're not both stealing for the same reason. Maybe they think they are. And the reason that, it kind of breaks apart is because you find out like one person is, for lack of a better term, like Robin Hooding. He's stealing for what is ultimately something that we can be sympathetic towards, while the other one is kind of just using the other one to get help to pull off a lot of this stuff, and it's just kind of planning to take it for selfish reasons. I mean, it's very simple storytelling, but maybe it's.
But it could also be seen as ambition, because that's one of the things that's funny about this whole one lady with these two guys. It's almost like she's a knockaround gal like them, because in real crime places, that's nobody's girlfriend. Stupid. That's Cheryl. Cheryl screwed that guy. Cheryl screwed that guy. Cheryl has $1 million in a Cayman Island account. Cheryl picks locks very well. That's Cheryl. She ain't nobody's girlfriend, stupid. But crime stories are always about trying to wife up Cheryl. That's what crime stories are always about. So in the end, this guy, the quote unquote bad guy, probably played by The Rock or envisaged by The Rock for most of the movie, however way we do it, I think that guy is more ambitious. That guy wants to be a billionaire stealer. That guy wants to steal stuff in Dubai. He wants to steal buildings in Dubai. That guy wants to do that. Our hero character for most of the movie is like, I'm an honest thief. I do this, I do that, blah, blah, blah. And his girlfriend's like, well, I want the guy who wants to steal Lamborghinis off of the top of buildings and stuff and be a super thief. and goes with that. Once the technology is there and the assuming of the identity and the screw you or whatever is there, she could do that and then maybe do the twist how she's playing both of them or whatever. And I think there's a good thing of maybe some scenes where we think that she is not aware that they're each other, but she's very much aware. Unlike Joan Allen, she's very much aware, and she uses that information to play them.
Dang, dude.
Yeah.
So now, I mean, a great sort of late second act reveal is she gets her hands on the nanite injection and impersonates the Interpol agent that's been chasing them. And that's her double crossing both of them. And that's where you get into the multiple face-offs too, right? So they're being chased by this female agent. They've got this knockaround girl, Cheryl, who the one guy thinks he's going to wife up, but who actually has her own interests. And when Cheryl turns on both of them, she impersonates the Interpol agent. And so now it's like that even, I sort of feel like you're forcing your more admirable thief and the real Interpol agent to sort of find each other and team up together, sort of a thing. I don't know if that makes sense.
That's interesting.
I just love the idea of slipping in there. Like there's so much face-offing happening, right?
Yeah.
Like let's slip in a whole face-off twist late second act.
Well, and the one thing I like about the lady facing off is it's just that little extra face off. Is we don't have to like do a Kaiser Soze, go back all the time. She tricked them or whatever, anything like that. It's just like, oh my God, you were this. That lady had me dead to rights, but then I got away, and that's so that I could run into that other trap. Man, that's all that type of stuff we can do if we just have her do it like for the audience's eye one time. And it also shows that, again, this woman has information. These guys think they're so smart because they have all this. They have this specific technology and specific information about that technology, and no one else has it. And that's their undoing because one other person had it, the one person that could play you both. I think that's interesting as far as like thematically why it works as an extra face-off.
Yeah, and if you want to make one of them nicer, just have one of them who like literally sends money to his mom. I mean, like you could literally.
You love that Save the Cat stuff. I'm gonna stab you.
I do. Well, you were saying that we got to make one of them a little more likable, right? I mean, that's important. And literally he's stealing because I don't know, his mom's house is gonna be it's Happy Gilmore. His grandma's house is going to be taken away by the tax man. I don't know. As long as we have something in there that makes one of the characters a little more likable so that we are rooting for someone. Because we do have to root for someone, right? Don't you think?
I mean, do we? Maybe, but I also think with these two actors in this particular setup, it's sort of up to the audience. Like, who do you want to root for?
Oh, that's interesting.
I mean, people are going to come in with their favorite. That's kind of the fun of Face Off is like if you're more of a crazy Travolta fan or a crazy Cage fan,
Oh,
and
guys,
and then you can make T-shirts that are team. Oh,
we're gonna call. Yeah, we're gonna call. I think it's The Rock beeping in. Gird your loins. Here we go.
Well, look at these Rudy Poo candy asses sitting around circle jerking each other. Yeah. I see ya. Well, The Rock just came back from one of his epic cheat meals. Yeah, you fatty in the red, you know all about cheat meals. Your whole diet's a cheat meal. Well, The Rock came back. He's energized. He had a meeting. That's right. The Rock took a meeting at Disney. Yes, The Rock, Disney, Moana, Tooth Fairy, shut your mouth. So The Rock had a meeting with Kevin Feige. And did you know that Kevin Feige says, Rock, you would be perfect for something I know is happening over at Disney. You would be perfect for Space Mountain. And The Rock said, you know what, Kevin? The millions and millions of The Rock's fans want to see him in space. And he said, you need to have a little more sci-fi experience. So The Rock says this, while you're writing this whole face-off, The Rock is auditioning for Space Mountain. They need to see The Rock can hang in outer space, baby. So The Rock, outer space, The Rock, it doesn't matter how you get it in there. You have 20-ish more minutes before The Rock comes back, and he damn better feel something just as electrifying as Interstellar, just as spine-tingling as Apollo 13. It doesn't matter, but The Rock in space, just bring it.
Okay, can I pitch for something? I don't care if nobody likes it. right off the bat, the super fresh plan that we were talking about is in space. It's used to what's the most valuable, some of the most valuable stuff in the world is in space. It's in those weird homes that they build up there, those modular jazzes that can pop off and all that kind of jazz. And they're always constantly building new dead ends onto them. There's ghetto areas of those space stations that you could very easily pop your ass up in there and come and get some very super valuable thing that they're doing space research on or something. That it doesn't have to be gold for you to sell it to somebody for $1 billion. Somebody's buying an NFT right now for $85,000. What are we talking about? So I think they're stealing something cutting edge from friggin' space. And obviously in space, there's all types of like things you have to punch in and things you have to know to be up there. Doing the face technology could be a boon in those. I don't know. That's all I got to say about it.
Well, actually, what if the first scene is them stealing the technology and blowing up something out there and making it look like an accident? They steal the technology. They're the only ones can have the technology because the technology was on a space station.
I would say if that's the case, then the technology wasn't meant, like, you don't go practice face swapping technology in space. Like, that's weird. But if it was meant for something else, some sort of like the government is trying to learn how to best camouflage satellites or something, and they're just taking that technology and reworking it for themselves, that I could buy a little bit more.
Okay.
I'll just say that I sort of feel like they need to have an established history of being experts at using this face swapping technology in order for the whole double crossing, I think, to land the way we want it to. And so I almost feel like I'm totally down with a heist in space, but I'm picturing like they're in the spacesuit and they've got to like kidnap an astronaut in 0G, scan his face with whatever sort of futuristic technology they have, inject the thing, and then turn around and sell to the other astronauts on the space station like, oh yeah, I'm Boris. Oh, my accent. Oh, I talk like this, right? You know, and it's like just having sort of the tropes of a movie like this, but just taking place in a 0G space station could be kind of dope.
Well, how about, okay, so what if, like, I like that idea, but I also think it would be interesting because, okay, we want stakes, right? What if they're stealing information from a satellite? I mean, is that ridiculous? I mean, I know that's not the only place you could steal it, but they're getting that information to sell to terrorists for $1 billion because that's a possibility. And then maybe the guy who's the good guy has second thoughts, and that's how you get your team up.
I mean, I'm just thinking, like, can we just even go like, look, if I'm face swapping a whole bunch and I need to get away for a little bit, I'm gonna pretend I'm Elon Musk and I'm gonna get on one of his little shuttles and I'm gonna get the hell out of here until things cool off. So could we just live in a world where passenger space flight it can be newish, but it's not.
Okay, but think about how hard it would be for a wanted terrorist to get onto an Elon Musk space flight to go chase the jerk who screwed him over. You know what I mean? I think that'd be a pretty Herculean, act by an actor.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, are you talking, Ed, that would be like a third act thing that they're
I don't know. Billy
chasing
kind of
to space?
Billy kind of sold me on us building it up. You know what I mean? Like, chasing face in space. You know what I mean?
I wonder if you could do.
We could call it Space Off if you wanted to.
Damn. On to something there,
dude. Bookends in space.
Well, what I was going to say, classic storytelling trope. If you start and your first sequence is some sort of heist on a space station, and by the way, I love the idea that we're just in a near future world where billionaires can vacation at a space station. Mm-hmm. I'm totally down with that. But you start with the heist and you show these guys how good they are, how skilled they are. It's essentially their save the cat for being badasses. They commit the ultimate heist. And maybe it's like whatever the most valuable thing in the world is. Somebody has, it's like I'm going to say this just because I'm thinking Spider-Man 2, but it's like there's a tritium power source, and this tritium has literally been mined off an asteroid from Elon Musk's whole space fleet, right? And they keep it for a nuclear reactor on this space station, and it's literally worth like $1 trillion if you could get a big old chunk of this stuff. And so they commit the ultimate heist. It sets up the world. We're in this futuristic sci-fi world. It sets up how good they are. It sets up the thing, the MacGuffin. And then we end up back up there for the third act. Like what would bring us back? Is it a Thomas Crown Affair thing? Are they essentially trying to undo the heist? Is it just, the one guy finds out a way to impersonate a billionaire, and so then they're going up into space and you get your mirror moment on a space station? That could be kind of dope. I don't know.
Go ahead. Ed.
I was just going to say, also, we just got to have that moment where the person is exonerated in front of a bunch of influential people because of this Herculean act in the third act where they get up to the pinnacle and they beat this citizen up who's like a rich, great citizen. They beat his ass in front of a bunch of people and then do the and it's like, oh, I was really me, and this guy is a bad guy, and he gets exonerated. You know what I'm saying? I want that to be I want something like that to be a moment. It's like it's one of the whole reasons why he had to chase that guy up there is to get his life back. We just need to, like I said, like how we needed that heart injection earlier. We just need that get my life back at the end, even if he's going to get screwed by the lady. If we're still doing that.
Well, he could get his life back, go back. The other guy goes to jail, and the whole time the ship that is holding the iridium is being flown by the lady in disguise. And then the last scene is literally she pushes the button or whatever, and her face goes back to who she actually is.
Ron just really going for that last scene reveal of the lady.
I gotta say, I don't know if I'm 100% like on board with the lady screw job at the end. It just seems like one step too many.
With space in it.
Well, it doesn't.
Don't look at me. That was the Rock.
Just seems like a button. It seems like one of those things where the movie is going to think it's cleverer than the audience does, unless we find a way to make her way more integral to the story. So that the idea of like, oh my God, she betrayed them is just going to hit you.
That's what I'm thinking, because like if that's the kind of thing where you want to go back at the end of the movie, be like, oh, I have to watch this again to see if I can see the breadcrumbs. But it's like at the end, it's like, oh, okay. Like, I guess that it just happened,
Maybe she's the lady maybe she's the one who finds them all their heists. And they're the ones who do the heist.
Can I just say though, like I don't want to keep shooting you down, but I think I know I can tell, but I think part of what makes Face Off like what it is that like people don't want to see a triple threat match. They want to see the one-on-one. They want to see Hemsworth and The Rock. I think the more you complicate that, the more it dilutes what we're trying to do here. I think having like the agent that's kind of chasing them is a necessary, just a plot device essentially. Like essentially they're kind of like the audience surrogate in a certain way. They're the ones that kind of have to get that information out. But essentially, just think of it from a marketing perspective. I want to put Hemsworth and The Rock on a poster, and I want to know, like, I want someone to be like, I don't even care what this movie's about. I just want to see these two go at it. Because essentially that's what this is.
Okay.
That's my 2 cents.
Take away any plot twist. I totally agree.
I just don't think I don't think that's what people are coming for this, personally, right. Unless you guys feel differently.
But I don't care. I also don't, I'm not attached to it, because I do see your point that it would be better if we're selling something where it's literally, hey guys, you're going to get to see Thor fight Hobbs. It is Hobbs, right? Then then you're getting what you want.
It's like if at the end of the first Face Off movie, if like John Travolta's wife like ripped her face off and it was Castor Troy's girlfriend, she's like, haha, got you at the end, and you're like, what? Like it just you're just walking out like, okay. Sure,
well, but also, what's funny about this, and people will track this back as they watch this back. She started out as an agent, and then started screwing everybody, and now is an agent again.
Two different.
Because
I thought they were
thought
two
about-
different characters.
No.
Different characters.
But well, yeah, but I was kind of cutting one out for the other one overall because of the fact of like these guys being
Stop
criminals.
criticizing us for what's going on in your head. That's all I'm saying.
Well, no, I'm just saying though. It's like honestly, this whole like, oh, there's a good girl and the bad girl, and they're gonna karate chop each. I feel like there's a woman in here that's important and is not part of the prize or anything. And at I was gonna have one. And it was either an agent or a person who was going to get theirs in the end because we made these guys two bad guys. In the end of this story, I think we have honor amongst thieves. Somebody violates honor amongst thieves, thusly making them the bad guy, period. And we have an agent, as Billy said, chasing them. And I get what you're saying as far as the space scene in the beginning showing their mastery. And I get what Billy said in the middle of the episode about like got to cut it off at some point, have them drive one car for a while so we can see what the race is. Boom, they end up back in space. Yeah, this all tracks now. I love it.
Okay.
I was going to try to make Ron's thing work. I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm just going to make the statement. If they do have, if there's both the agent chasing them and there's the girlfriend and the one guy steals her away from the other guy, a great third act reveal is that there was never a girlfriend. It was the agent impersonating her the whole time using the face swapping technology.
To get information.
Yeah,
I
essentially.
mean, the thing is,
set up
though,
the
you run into that weird problem where it's like, oh, she just like slept with these guys to like it's
Fair.
kind of gross and dirty.
Fair.
Like it's a cool twist. That's a really cool twist that this woman that they both kind of tried to screw each other over like wasn't even a real person. I just the minute that I'm sorry, like the minute you put sex in it, it starts to raise so many red flag questions that I don't know if I want to go down that path.
Reasonable.
You could flip it though and say there was never an agent, right? So it could be that they have the girlfriend and and there's a double cross happening there, and they think that this Interpol agent is on their trail because they keep having these run-ins, but the agent was made up the whole time and it was always the girlfriend.
But
Then
why
actually
then is she
gets
pretending to be an agent to chase them?
to manipulate them into essentially going after each other. It's exactly the twist that Ron was wanting, right? That in the end, she pit them against each other so that she could abscond with the tritium.
I just see that. I just don't think there needs to be a third act twist.
Well,
Personally, that's my vote.
Also, I just think that takes away from the size of what we can do as far as like, it's one thing for one lady to fake that she's a force or whatever, but it's a whole nother thing to have like, the Bourne scenes where it's like those goofy guys with their foreign horns going, and then homeboys driving and slamming them up and going down cobblestone streets. We got to get some of that while we're on land. We start in space, for Christ's sake. We got to have some good gags on land, and we need greater forces than one lady running Cagney and Lacey lady running after him. Hey, you two beefcake, stop it! Pew pew. It's like,
that's what I was thinking. I was like, at a certain point for her, if she's just trying to screw them to get the money, it's just a lot less effort to just shoot them both on the crapper. Like, like why do this huge Dr. Evil scheme? Just kill them while they're taking a shit and be done.
All right. There's no better way to transition us to the next part of this discussion, which is who is going to be that lady who shoots him on the crapper, or not, as the case may be. Let's talk casting. We know we've got The Rock and we've got Chris Hemsworth. Now, who is going to be the female Interpol agent that is one step behind them the whole way? Who is going to be our Elon Musk billionaire character that feels like he or she will factor into the plot at some point? And then maybe if there's anybody else that we just want to find roles for in this matchup of two titans, let's do that.
You know what I was thinking? And again, this is another one of I just watched Saturday Night Live and I was like, oh, you're really talented. And then I watched her movie. I think Carrie Mulligan is a great choice. She just came out Promising Young Woman. I think she has that fire, that intensity, but she also can be funny. And I think that there is kind of a certain element of like understanding the two of them that makes a project like this work.
Mm-hmm. That's a fair choice. She very much fits the archetype of Joan Allen in the first movie, who is a sexy woman, but of a certain age and kind of demure and like not really, definitely not the bombshell. I guess Gina Gershon was in there as well, and she covered the bombshell role. I guess that's my thing, and maybe I'm being way too Hobbs and Shaw about this, and I shouldn't be, but I'm thinking of like, who's just like a sexy chick who could go toe to toe with both of these guys? And I don't know.
I don't see it that way. I don't. Like
I want just real quick. I don't want to interrupt, but I want a real deal 40-year-old woman straight up, and that encompasses people like Salma Hayek, and encompasses a lot of people. I'm just throwing that out there, but you know what I'm saying? Like and I think designing her very much like J-Lo's part in Out of Sight is where the money is at. That's all I got to say about it.
I like, how about Colby Smulders? Am I say her name right? The lady who plays Maria Hill?
Mm-hmm.
It's not bad. She's getting a little typecast these days, but
well, you know, she's good at it.
I don't know that she's like your number one female lead in an action movie type of person, but then again, she was that for our Wolverine movie.
Yeah.
And Kevin Feige seemed to like that. So
yeah. Who's the person you we probably get a swear jar for this one. It's one of your guys' fans. He was I think it might be yours, Ed. She was in King Kong and Godzilla.
No, that's Bill's girl, Isa Gonzalez.
That's Bill's
She's
girl,
like,
Isa Gonzalez.
I'd never say no to Isa Gonzalez.
What about Tandy Newton? She's a little bit older. She's a very attractive woman, but she's also very strong, very powerful. Like, I would buy her as. That's the thing. It's like if someone's going after these two super villain thieves, they're gonna be a seasoned veteran. They're not. You're not gonna send out, Demi Lovato to go catch them. You know,
like I'm gonna go send out Dua Lipa to beat up these two Interpol criminals.
Like, you're gonna send someone who's seen some shit, and I think Tandy Newton's seen some shit.
Yeah,
I mean, Tandy Newton is incredible for sure.
I'm down.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think there is a little something to her being. Again, I think in Out of Sight they struck that perfect. That there's this whole get you a girl that can do both meme culture where they have like a soldier lady with her hair pulled back and with a freaking M60 in her hand or changing a transmission in a big Jeep. And then she'll be in a dress and be like, wow, jeez Louise. Like, it's supposed to be so surprising. But J-Lo in that movie was just that. When she was getting her shotgun out of the trunk, I wasn't looking at no shotgun, and that wasn't a trunk I was looking at. She was beautiful and gorgeous and did all this beautiful stuff. But when she decided to strip down and chase Homeboy in the end, she might as well have been a T-1000. There wasn't no sex there. That was an agent ready to kill you.
But why does it have to be like a soup? Why does the looks have to do anything? Like, I want an agent that just looks like a damn agent, that looks like she has solved a lot of cases and chased out. I know why, but the thing you have to keep in mind is, like, guys are going to go see this movie because it's an action movie with The Rock, and women are going to go see it because it's two hot men. We have our sexual objectification, check it off the list. So now with this third woman character, this third lead, like, get someone who actually is like an agent. And I'm just saying, like, it could be a sexy woman, sure, but I'm saying, like, we are thinking of, like, well, she's good, but she's not like sexy. Like, that should have nothing to do with it, in my opinion. It should be just like someone who looks believable as an agent.
Yeah, I vote Lucy Liu.
I'm gonna give the less obvious version of Lucy Liu. I was going to say Constance Wu, who was the lead in Crazy Rich Asians, is 40. And I think we know she's good in comedy. She was on Fresh Off the Boat for several seasons, playing against Randall Park, one of the funniest guys in Hollywood. I think she's due for an action role. I think she's got the screen presence. I think she could do the physicality. I think she is attractive while also being able to sell competent. And she's not like a bombshell hot woman, but she's a very hot woman. And so I feel like this is a good.
I agree with that assessment, especially in that if we get some good scenes there climbing these dudes and kicking them in the neck and stuff, oh boy, it's gonna be awesome.
That sounds great.
I think it's a great choice, Bill. I'm in.
Okay.
I'm in on that too.
Can we put a great older character actor in this movie as the billionaire that these guys are essentially like playing, and maybe even become sort of a contagonist?
Well, dude, when you said Arnold Schwarzenegger earlier, I don't know, man. You know what I mean? Like somebody of Schwarzenegger's stature, even. Oh, I hate Stallone now, man. I wish I could put Stallone down the toilet for ruining my childhood by being so awesome. And then I learned about his politics, and then I'm just like all sad. But anyway, somebody of that level that's like a beefy guy. You know what I'm saying? So that's like he's a beefy billionaire, like that Dan Bilzerian guy or whatever. You know that they're just chilling out, shooting AKs in the air on his yacht, and then Dan Bilzerian or whatever is going to be one of the first people in space. That idiot who has $1 billion, so he's better than me, I guess, is going to be one of the first people in space without having to go through no damn Institute of Learning or no Starfleet. He's just going to get to buy his way into space.
Dude, I will say, I've been waiting for the movie to essentially cast a Dan Bilzerian type as just the hateable, like kill him in the third act sort of secondary villain for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, who plays?
I do want to say, while you guys think about that, I do want to say, I think it would be hilarious if one of the people that they've been setting up, if we're still doing that, I think we are. If there's like a few people who've gone to jail because of these guys, it's got to be John Travolta and Nicolas Cage make a cameo in
Hard
this.
pass.
Ron, you're doing a whole other movie here. You're doing a whole other movie here.
Hard pass.
The tone is just different. That's all.
Don't Evan Peters me. Like, wait a minute. Is this the same? No. Not having it. Fool me once, sir.
Here's why I like Schwarzenegger and Stallone is this script was originally written in 1990 for Schwarzenegger and Stallone. And it wasn't made until like 95 with Cage and Travolta, but like the writers specifically wrote it for Schwarzenegger and Stallone. So finding a role for one of those two guys feels a little bit appropriate.
Well, Schwarzenegger won't do villains anymore. So
a billionaire isn't technically a villain. He's just a billionaire.
Schwarzenegger doesn't have the self-awareness to play a Dan Bilzerian type, though. You know what I mean? Like
we're making a Dan Bilzerian, not an Elon Musk millionaire.
Well, I just think to me, the point I was trying to make with the character is that crass, crappy people are billionaires too. It isn't always tech geniuses and this, that, and the other. It's just sometimes they're just lucky assholes.
Dude,
I just think
yeah. No, you know who I would cast? Going back to our Fantastic Four reboot, the newly beefy Ethan Suplee is just dying to play a Dan Bilzerian type.
I'm down.
That's weird. Not bad. But
and
weird.
he's big. He's so and like those guys. And I also think that there's something interesting about them having to do a little bit of extra acting for somebody that big or something. They'd have to do some little extra thing to show that these guys, it's not just technology. These guys have been doing this forever without technology. Before technology, before the internet, these guys could assume identities like Lupin and stuff. But now they got super technology. They're unbeatable.
Here's my last curveball casting wise. The thing that would make this movie even bigger than it already would be, villain Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. is the billionaire type that is essentially like the asshole, like the actual asshole Tony Stark, right? Like you bring him in to play a Tony Stark type, but with sort of the horrible personal politics of a Dan Bilzerian.
I don't
like it.
hate it. I almost just feel I like the Ethan Suplee better, just because like it's I feel like it should be more of like a character actor than the minute you. That's the thing. Like you never want to put anyone in this movie that could potentially upstage Hemsworth Rock. Unless it's like a surprise, but like that's not something you could keep a surprise. Like I just think like you don't want to throw in a third like billing on this movie.
So you don't want Wesley Snipes as the?
Or what about
Millionaire
what about the newly buffed J.K. Simmons? He's super ripped now for no reason.
J.K. Simmons is actually a great.
You know
He's
what I mean? Always a value add.
He's the best asshole Hollywood has. You know.
Oh, dude, and check it out, the scene where it's like they've taken control of him, and one of his, and somebody, I don't know, him just ripping off his shirt and showing all those muscles. It would be like Chris Hemsworth had on J.K. Simmons' head because he's so ridiculously buff. You could get some production value out of it.
Absolutely. I definitely want to see either Hemsworth or The Rock with the face of J.K. Simmons. I think that would be amazing.
I'm for J.K. Simmons.
I mean, he's a good enough actor to understand. I mean, he knows the satire.
Tom Holland. Tom Holland might be better. I got you guys.
Ron, you're slacking. You're slacking.
Wow, we almost made it this whole thing. Yeah, I was wondering if it was coming or not. I wasn't going to remind you.
I hadn't said
all right,
Tom
gentlemen,
Holland
let's bring it home before The Rock storms in and kicks all of our candy asses. Who are we going to get to direct this monstrosity of a movie? Who is going to come in and helm this 300-mile-an-hour out-of-control freight train?
Clearly Michael Bay.
They've worked together.
I mean, I was actually joking, but
Michael Bay's made a lot of money for Paramount, baby, with that Transformers franchise.
I want to throw out a name of someone that will get rejected, but at least I have it on record that I said it. Someone you guys probably don't know. There was a movie that just came out that I absolutely loved because it was so crazy, and ironically, it starred Nicolas Cage. It's called Willy's Wonderland, where he gets basically stuck in a murderous Chuck E. Cheese. It is fantastic. The director is Kevin Lewis, and it is 1017% the tone of this movie. And it's the most fun I've had watching a movie like that in like 10 years. So on record, you guys will poo-poo it or be like, cool, next. But it's on record now that I said it.
Cool.
I don't know that.
Just kidding.
I don't know. I've never even heard of that movie, but
Willy's Wonderland. It's so weird and dumb and fun. So it's basically he's tricked into cleaning this abandoned like Chuck E. Cheese that's haunted by murderous animatronics.
Okay, I'm going to throw somebody out there. Since we're getting nuts, how about this is what I'm going to throw out, and I think it's going to get summarily rejected. Whoever that cat is that directed Godzilla versus King Kong. Because I'm telling you, that person doesn't seem to understand how to recognize a script that isn't just, Adam
Wingard.
Spitting. All I'm saying is he directed the hell out of Spit and Bailing Wire between 2 or 3 good scenes of Kong and Godzilla. And he directed the hell out of that. I just think if you give him some really great stuff, really good scenes, and that aesthetic, that sort of neon and just future Tokyo, it's fresh.
So this guy's no effing way. Paramount Pictures announced in September 2019 plans to remake Face Off with a new cast. It was reported that Adam Wingard would direct, and the film would be a direct sequel to the original.
Oh,
that's insane.
Super
That's
interesting.
Insane.
Oh,
wow. What a pull. What a pull. And I know you didn't look this up. That was a pull.
Dude, that's that half court shot right there.
I'm Baylor just like
dude, I don't know if we should end on that or if that means that he's automatically off the table if it's happening
I don't know.
somebody else's movie.
That's I don't know if that's ever happened on this show before where someone just Babe Ruth did at the end.
Dude, I could see it. You could see it when you start to think about the world, especially the one that we've built. I don't know what they have in mind, but the one that we built could use that slightly future aesthetic that he's showing that he's good at.
He also did this movie. His filmography is so hit and miss, but he did this movie, The Guest, which I really loved. It's fantastic. I almost don't want to say what it's about because I want all of you to go watch it because it's not what you think it is. It's great.
Is.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're gonna go with Adam Wingard.
I like it.
So, guys, for The Rock, we have achieved reboot. Here we go. Let's round it out. We have got The Rock going up against the man who at the time will be known to mass audiences as Hulk Hogan. And what could be better than The Rock versus Hulk Hogan? Chris Hemsworth comes in to play the John Travolta or Nicolas Cage, depending on who's who, role in this one. And we are completely throwing out the face-off science for a brand new approach. They are master thieves, they are partners, and they are better than anybody else because they have injectable face nanites. And they can turn themselves into anybody they want and have been doing it to get away with incredibly high stakes, high value thefts for years. And at the beginning of this movie, they pull off the heist of all heists. The most, I forget if we want it to be tritium, but whatever it is, it's going to be the most valuable object in the world, held at a space station made for and run by billionaires. We're in a near future world where you can vacation high above the earth at an Elon Musk type's orbiting wonderland. And the Elon Musk type in this movie is played by, I think we said Ethan Suplee, but we said somebody else. I'm
J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons. The twist, they're each trying to frame each other for the crime. They're using their face-off technology against each other, and on their tail is Constance Wu playing an Interpol agent who's very confused by the whole thing. Somewhere halfway through, they get stuck with each other's faces and start to have to deliberate how to live out the rest of their lives, especially once the framing plans start to work. And so this all brings us back in the third act, back up on the space station. We haven't quite figured out why we're there, but Dwayne, you have to be on board with this, especially when we tell you Adam Wingard, fresh off of Godzilla versus Kong, who knows how to make a cinematic matchup of two beefy titans, is going to be our director. That's the movie. Rock, what do you think?
Well, first of all, if you ever call The Rock Dwayne again, Cookie Puss, I will smack the taste out of your mouth. Now, as it turns out, The Rock heard your pitch. He heard everything, the casting, all the back and forth, the drama. It was electrifying. And The Rock said, you know what? It's a pretty damn good movie. It's a pretty damn good pitch, but he just has one note for you. And that is, what in the blue hell are you talking about? John Travolta, Nick Cage, what are you talking about? The Rock bought the rights to Face Off, the reality series about special effects makeup. The Rock didn't tell you that he was doing Face Off the movie. The Rock's never even seen Face Off the movie because it's a steaming pile of monkey crap. None of you know what the blue hell you're doing, but you know what? I'm glad that you got all of this out. I hope that you wrote it down, because here's what The Rock wants you to do. He wants you to print it out. Yeah, he wants you to print out all 200 pages, all the transcripts. He wants you to shine it up real nice. Turn that sumbitch sideways and stick it straight up all your candy asses. If you smell what The Rock is cooking, get the hell out of here.
Oh.
I guess
Okay.
he should have clarified which one he meant.
Yeah, I really like that show.
I got to be honest, for a hot second at the beginning, I wondered if we should ask that question. Well, I guess we are on to the next meeting, guys.
Does anyone know Dan Bilzerian's number? I want to play him in poker.
Hey guys, remember that time I said Adam Wingard and we were happy?
That's a good shot. Shot your shot.